we are led to believe that none of the fiction from books and movies people watch and TV shows is not based on any truth, but rather is just stories made up for people's entertainment. Well, diving deeper, we can find that in secret, those who are controlling Hollywood and other film industries, who make a lot of fiction people consume, are secretly hiding hidden truths in fiction related to plots to control the world and the reality of spiritual as well as other supernatural beings existing, who secret societies hide the existence of, and a lot of other hidden secrets which are hidden in fiction in plain sight, but not in ways most people notice. If one can see the hidden symbolism and messages, they will notice that through film and other forms of fiction, the elite who control the world, known to make such fiction, depict their plan to control the world, but also real entities, or at least what are partially based on real entities, depicted as fictional beings. One example is the Lone Gunmen television series, which is related to the X-Files television show, which predicted the 9/11 terrorist attacks before they happened, hinting that what are labeled conspiracy theories about these attacks, which say the government secretly caused them rather than some terrorists from elsewhere, are actually true, because in the show, the government rather than some terrorists from somewhere else hacks these planes and tries to crash them into the Twin Towers. You can see this episode. It's called Pilot. It was aired on March 4th, 2001, but the 9/11 attacks did not happen until September of 2001. This was made right around when the attacks happened, but before they actually took place, which makes me think there's some connection. It says in the synopsis, it says, while he and the other lone gunman attempt to steal a computer chip, Biles receives news of his father's death, and the trio soon find themselves unraveling a government conspiracy, which an attempt to fly commercial aircraft into the World Trade Center would result in increased arms sales for the United States of America. Then it shows more in the film too. Another well-known example is The Matrix, made in 1990. It is about this false digital reality people are unknowingly trapped by, which the character Neo tries to escape from. But many think this is more than just fiction, and there have been links to the movie with theories that there is a false reality pulled over our heads that we are actually trapped by, and the elites of the world know this, that they are trying to keep us trapped in the Matrix. It is also connected to beliefs that reality is a simulation, which is digital, like the Matrix. In the movie, the character Morpheus offers Neo two choices, which are represented by two pills. There's the blue pill and the red pill. If Neo takes the red pill, he will wake up from the false reality. He will find hidden truths about the world, helping him escape the Matrix, rather than believing its lies. But if he takes the blue pill, he will stay asleep in the false reality, not knowing the truth or caring about it, trapped by the Matrix still. In the film, these are shown as literal pills, but I believe this isn't something literal, but this is a metaphor for something else. I think we can take the red pill as a metaphor to follow the truth, to escape from the real Matrix. So when we take the red pill, we are spiritually choosing to follow the path of truth, which will help us escape from the Matrix. Of course, we have the 1988 movie They Live, whose creator even admitted to it being a documentary right around the time he was killed, leading me to believe he was actually killed because he was exposing the truth that was actually based on truth. Here is what was originally a tweet on Twitter but is now on X of the creator of the film, Rowdy Piper, saying that They Live is a documentary. At first, not seeing the hidden reality to the world, the main character, who is named something like Nada or Nada if I remember correctly, puts on some unusual sunglasses which allow him to see the hidden truth about the world around him, noticing a hidden reality that was blocked from his knowledge. He knows there was a false reality pulled over his eyes to blind him from what the world was really like. What at first seems like normal reality to him, later becomes these signs when he puts on these glasses, which say various things such as obey, hinting that there are people controlling the world who want the normal citizens, or labeled as normal citizens, to obey them. And it says all this other stuff that these sunglasses reveal to him. We see signs that say stuff like conform, hinting that those who control the world want people to conform with one another, be the same without being independent or free, just be like blind robots that do the same thing. He knows these signs when he puts on the glasses that reveals the truth. It says stuff like no independent thought, showing, and stuff like consume, showing that governments want people to not be independent thinkers and to consume stuff blindly. Then when he goes into this like grocery store like place, it says stuff like buy, hinting that they want us to be blind consumers who buy their products, just serving in this corporate system. It says also stay asleep, which means people are sleeping and not awakened to the truth, and then submitting to the government and these other blind ideologies and celebrities and others. It says stay asleep, obey again. Then it says bye, do not question authority. It says watch TV, no imagination, hinting that they want us to not be creative or think for ourselves. That's what is showing, that there's hidden messages like in these magazines and signs and all this other stuff that are really forms of control. But he also notices that some humans, not all of them, but some of them, look like these otherworldly entities or these non-human entities, which look partially reptilian. When he looks at some money in one scene and then puts on the glasses, it says, "This is your God." This shows us how governments and others use money as a tool to control people by making people blindly slaves to money and caring for money in greedy ways or other harmful ways. That is why it says on the dollar bill, "In God we trust." In reality, it is secretly trying to make people worship money as their God. That is why so many people are a slave to the dollar, caring about money more than other stuff. The villains in the movie who want to control people are these non-human entities who appear to people as other humans but are really other beings. Some humans are not these beings, or actually most of them aren't, but there are a few people who are, including those who are and are not part of the government, as the same is true with secret societies that are secretly controlling the world. This concept is very similar to beliefs proposed by David Icke and others about a reptilian race or a humanoid reptilian race who disguise themselves as humans. They are part of the government, celebrities, scientists, and others working to control the everyday human. These beliefs are labeled a conspiracy by the general public, but I think they are based on truth. So many other examples can be found, such as with The Simpsons, which is known to have predicted the future. Some relate this to the ideas of predictive programming. Here are some examples where it says the show predicted Donald Trump being the president of the United States and other stuff. There are probably more examples elsewhere, hinting that those who made it knew about these events in advance as part of a plot to control the world. Seeing Hollywood is run by Satanists, I will not trust every single thing shown in movies and television shows as being the truth. I think they are both secretly hiding truth but also using film to deceive people. But the part people notice, and the part most people notice about film is what is used to deceive people, but there's also hidden truths in the film. Various reasons have been proposed why this is the case. But this goes beyond just plots to control the world. Some people, and I hold this belief too, think that many, but not all, of the beings shown in what is labeled fiction are actually based on real beings. Some say they are demons, others say they are different types of beings. Well, I personally think both these beliefs are true, that some of them are demons, some of them are all types of beings who governments and secret societies want to hide the existence of. Personally, I try to avoid watching too much, or if maybe sometimes not even any, unless it's to spread knowledge about stuff. Most of the stuff in this video is from like past memories and stuff I find online, but if you want to find hidden truths or watch for other reasons, that's your choice. if you think doing so is better than risking possible deception and mind control, just like how TV is known to be mind control, used by secret societies. In fact, the whole media is, or at least a lot of it. I hold the belief that governments and other members of secret societies who make films know about the existence of mythical creatures like Bigfoot, the Loch Ness Monster, fairies, dragons, dwarves or dwarfs, mermaids, and all these other creatures from these ancient myths. Like others, I believe governments and other members of secret societies who work for them are hiding the existence of these legendary creatures from the public. Like what many people know they do with so-called aliens or extraterrestrials at secret bases. I think they also do this with other creatures considered mythical. Well, I don't really think aliens are... I think the things aliens, people call aliens exist, but they are not the same as how many people imagine them. I don't think they come from outer space. I think they come from other realms. But that's a topic for another video. Those who know of the existence of these beings show them in fiction. That is why in so many works of fiction they depict creatures considered to only be derived from ancient myths or exist in the world of fiction. It is my belief that this is purposely done to program people to believe these beings are not real, to trick them. Because when people see them as cartoons and fiction, it plants ideas in their mind that they are not real, therefore making people not believe in them, which I think is a plot made by those who control Hollywood to make people only view these beings as fantasy because they don't want people to know that they exist. I'm not saying every being depicted in fiction is real or that all works of fiction are entirely based on true. No, I think they are partially based on truth. At least some of them. Some of them might be, I think some of them are entirely fictional and some are entirely works of deception. But otherwise they show real beings, but they show them as fictional to trick people to thinking they are not real. If you look into the origins of a lot of movies, you'll find that they are based on older myths and fairy tales, hinting that they are actually real. But the ones they show in the movie are like changed versions of the older myths and fairy tales, which I think they are changing to make a false version of the story instead of the true version of the story, which is from ancient myths. But I also think that even some of the fiction that is not directly related to ancient myths or fairy tales is still secretly based on hidden truth and beings that weren't documented in certain sources. Overall, this plot has caused people, the general public at least, to believe these beings are just fiction, because when people search for terms related to the fairy tales and the myths, they instead find fiction, which is a changed version of the true story, instead of the true story about these beings being real. People have been programmed to think believing in the supernatural and myths is childish nonsense because the fiction they consume makes them think that is all that it is, or that is just entertainment or works of the imagination rather than solid reality like the truth. In fact, belief in mythical beings and magic and other stuff considered supernatural is more common in rural areas or areas closer to nature, often, but not always, in non-Western countries, at least in many cases, meaning that these people who consume less fiction are more likely to believe in this stuff, meaning they have not been programmed to view it as fiction, but instead stay true to the history of these myths being based in solid reality. The phenomena of noticing these truths hidden in plain sight is sometimes called truth in fiction. I think what are labeled as fictional movies and books are actually documentaries used by the Illuminati and these others who control film industries. So what they show as fiction to the public is really truth to them. It is like a news source for them or documentaries of history for them, while the history and news given to the public is false. The ideas for much of modern fiction were stolen from ancient mythologies and religions, as you can see if you do the research on the historical origins. Well, there's that, but I also think some of this fiction is based on real events and beings that are kept secret, which aren't mentioned in historical records. I also think when people try to do research on these, considered fantasy beings or mythical beings, they will often see the fictional version come up when they search for it or something, instead of the older version. So I think they make fiction so people will see the fictional story instead of the true story, which usually is different than the one shown in fiction. I think this is done by the elite who make the fiction to hide the truth about these stories and what really happened with them. But if you dig deep enough, you can usually find that a lot of fiction is based on some true story. Though not all of these stories are in the public record that are viewable by everyone. Some are kept hidden. On maps of the true cosmology of a world, the flat Earth maps, we see the ice of Antarctica surrounding Earth as a ring. It can be considered the ends of the Earth on the flat Earth model because the Earth is flat with ends or edges, unlike what mainstream science claims about being round. Many of us know the truth that this ice ring that surrounds the Earth, which is Antarctica, is a massive ice wall that surrounds the entire world. While some people say the Earth just ends here, others believe that beyond the Earth right here and beyond the ice wall, there are actually many other lands and oceans existing beyond it that NASA, the government, and other members of secret societies are hiding from the public. The story of Admiral Richard Byrd, who explored Antarctica in the 1940s during Operation High Jump, and that of others, support the idea that lands exist beyond Antarctica. Here is an interview he gave on the Longines Tronoscope.
35 years ago, our guest tonight found out whether there was any land north of the North American continent. He made that first discovery flight, and I must say that Admiral Byrd, our guest tonight, is not only our greatest living explorer, but he's been an inspiration to countless Americans. Admiral Byrd, you've been to both the North Pole and the South Pole. Is there any unexplored land left on this earth that might appeal to adventurous young Americans?
Yes, there is. And not up around the North Pole, because it's getting crowded up there now, because they find out it's really usable. not only to live in, but militarily. But strangely enough, there's left in the world today an area as big as the United States that's never been seen by a human being. And that's beyond the pole, on the other side of the South Pole, from Middle America. And I think it's quite astonishing that there should be an area as big as that unexplored.
This is a tremendous
So
challenge.
there's a lot of adventure left down at the bottom of the world.
Well, Admiral, do you hope to see that?
I do.
The Game of Thrones, which is said to be a work of fiction, actually shows something similar, which I think is secretly showing the truth presented falsely as fiction. Because there is this ice wall shown as massive in size. In the story, there is even mention of lands beyond it that the characters from their lands go to that is past this wall. In this article about the wall from the Game of Thrones, it says, "The wall is a colossal fortification which stretches for 100 leagues, 300 miles, so it stretches very far, like the ice wall of Antarctica." I think in reality this ice wall is much bigger, but the one they show in the fiction isn't as big as the one in real life, because fiction is only partially true, but it's also mixed with lies. They also depict this as happening somewhere else than on Earth, but I think it's actually happening on Earth and the lands beyond Antarctica, rather than two entirely different worlds. It says, "Along the northern border of the Kingdom of the North, separating the realm from the domain of the wildlings who live beyond," so they live beyond this wall, in lands beyond the ice wall. See what the wildlings are. It says they are called free folk. It says the free folk, also referred to by the people of the Seven Kingdoms as wildlings, the self-given name for the people who live in the lands beyond the wall, still on the continent of the Westeros, beyond the northern border of the Seven Kingdoms. The name they employ makes reference to their society, which recognizes no inherent or hereditary political authority except for leaders whom they choose to follow. The free folk refer to those south of the wall as Neelors. Normally the wildlings are divided into many different rival tribes and clans, but I don't think that's something good in reality, but it's what is depicted in fiction. It says, "But occasionally they unite behind a single over chieftain," if I'm pronouncing that correctly, known as the King Beyond the Wall, as they were under Mance Rayder. The free folk are now allies of the House of Stark after many of their people were saved by Jon Snow. There's also mention of giants who are considered, it says giants are non-human race considered to be legend by the inhabitants of the Seven Kingdoms, who I think represent the places of art south of the wall. However, giants do actually exist in the farthest north, beyond the wall. So it is a race of giants living beyond the ice wall. Another race of beings who live beyond the ice wall are called the White Walkers. It says, "The White Walkers were an ancient race of formerly human ice creatures who came from the far north of Westeros. After remaining hidden for thousands of years, they returned and were sighted by several sworn brothers of the Night's Watch and countless wildlings. However, most who live south of the wall believe them to be nothing more than creatures of legend. So the people on our side of the ice wall, which represent the people of Earth, I think, rather than how it is depicted in the fiction, do not believe the beings on the other side of the ice wall exist." The Game of Thrones also features dragons and many other creatures considered to be mythical or fictional, which I hold ties into beliefs that beyond the ice wall of Antarctica, the creatures talked about in ancient legends and many other creatures people do not know or exist or believe in are actually living beings who exist in such lands. I believe some of them exist on Earth too, but whenever they come out where a lot of people can see them, governments or those who work for them try to hide their existence, and have successfully been doing so for a long time. A map to help support the idea this is all true is the Urbano Monte map, made in 1587, which shows a map similar to the flat Earth map, but instead of Antarctica surrounding the world, there are these lands with plants and creatures. Some people think it represents Antarctica before it was frozen. Well, that might be partially true, but it might also be showing lands beyond Antarctica, because beyond this part you can see this island, which is like a land beyond Antarctica. But this other part might actually represent part of the lands beyond Antarctica that used to be attached to Antarctica. If you zoom into this map, you can see creatures that are considered to be mythical, like the mythical centaurs from Greek mythology, the hybrid centaur creatures. And then there is dragons down here. And there's like these humanoid fish creature things and these other creatures. Look closely here and you can see a cyclops, someone fighting a dragon, and here's another dragon, another possibly, whatever that thing is, and we see all these other creatures like these mermaid looking things, and there's many more. Blemmies are a legendary group of this humanoid race encountered by ancient explorers who do not really have a head. Well, they have a head, but it's on their chest. The Perry-Reese map was a map made in 1513 by the Ottoman admiral and cartographer Perry-Reese. We can see if we take a look at this map, then you can see here, this is like South America or something, and across it you can see Antarctica, but you notice there's living creatures in Antarctica, which includes what looks like a Blemmy. So I think this represents the beings who came from the lands beyond Antarctica, whether it's depicting Antarctica, them coming to it, or actually depicting them in such lands. Therefore, this and other evidence has led many to conclude the ancient creatures from myth exist or are common in the lands beyond Antarctica, even though they are rare or now extinct in our world. Narnia is a series of fantasy stories that have been made into movies, which are based on the older Chronicles of Narnia book series, featuring a world of magic with Jadis the Witch, and mythical creatures such as fauns, who are the goatmen of Roman myth, known as satyrs in Greek mythology, and centaurs, those half-human, half-horse creatures in ancient legends, along with unicorns, the legendary one-horned horse, as well as the little people known in mythology as dwarfs or dwarves, together with many other creatures considered to only exist in ancient myths or fantasy novels. Some say it is only a story based in imagination rather than solid reality. But I think it is at least partially based on truth and a story about what actually took place, even though I doubt it is entirely true. In what was originally Book 2 of the series, called The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, there are 4 children named Susan, Edmund, Peter, and Lucy, during World War II, bombings happen, then for their safety, they are evacuated from their home, then sent to a large house on the countryside belonging to Professor Diggory Cork, who takes care of them. Looking it up, we will find that the children in Narnia are actually based on real children. By the author C.S. Lewis, it says down here that during the Second World War, Lewis took in many children who were escaping the air raids in London. They even come from London in the story. 4 of these children inspired Lewis to create the 4 Pevensie children, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, although the character of Lucy was inspired directly by his niece Lucy. Even then it says that he also based this Aslan character, who is this talking lion. It says Lewis drew from various facets of the Bible and other holy texts to create his story. One of the greatest parallels is between Aslan and the Christian God. Aslan takes on different roles in each volume, as he embodies an all-powerful God in one book, the magician's nephew, a guiding and self-sacrificing Jesus in another, the lion, the witch, and the wardrobe, and the Holy Spirit in others. It says Lewis drew from other stories in the Bible, such as Genesis and David and Goliath. According to the story, while they are playing a game of hide-and-go-seek, Lucy finds a wardrobe, then enters it. When she goes through it, she finds that she has entered some other world, like through a portal to another world, with these trees and this snow near what is similar to a street lamp. Here she meets the faun named Mr. Tumnus, if I remember how to pronounce that correctly. When she returns through the portal, at first the other children do not believe her story of visiting another world. Let's see what this online version of the original book says when they tell the professor about the story of Lucy going to this other world. Says, "That is a point," said the professor, "which certainly deserves consideration, very careful consideration. For instance, if you will excuse me for asking the question, does your experience lead you to regard your brother or your sister as the more reliable? I mean, which is the more truthful? This is talking about in regards to the story of her visiting the world of Narnia, if it's true or not." It says, "That's just the funny things about it, Sora," said Peter. "Up till now I'd have said Lucy every time." "And what do you think, my dear?" said the professor, turning to Susan. "Well," said Susan, "in general I'd say the same as Peter, but this couldn't be true. All this about the wood and the faun." "That is more than I know," said the professor, "and the charge of lying against someone whom you have always found truthful is a very serious thing indeed." "You are afraid it mightn't even be lying," said Susan. "We thought there might be something wrong with Lucy." "Madness, you mean?" said the professor, quite coolly. "Oh, you can make your minds easy about that. One has only to look at her and talk to her to see that she is not mad." I think what is said in the story here represents how many people choose to believe in modern mainstream science instead of the supernatural, not because of logic they follow, but because they are mad or have some dislike of something, in this case belief in the supernatural, rather than seeking logic like they claim to do, which makes them not believe in what they dislike because of their madness instead of logic, which they label as pseudoscience, while what is really pseudoscience is labeled as science by them. Then it says, "Logic," said the professor half to himself. "Why don't they teach logic at these schools?" Representing how the public school system is used to teach lies to people. as well as being a tool the Illuminati used to brainwash people, controlling them. Next it says, there are only three possibilities. Either your sister is telling lies, or she is mad, or she is telling the truth. No, she doesn't tell lies. It is obvious that she is not mad. For the moment, then, and unless any further evidence turns up, we must assume that she is telling the truth. Later in the story, all four children travel through the wardrobe, then enter the world of Narnia, where they have adventures. Something to note about the world of Narnia is that when humans from Earth visit the world of Narnia and return to Earth, they find that none or not very much time has passed on Earth, even though a lot of time has passed when they are in the world of Narnia. So when they return to the world of Earth, they find that little or no time has passed, even though a lot of time has passed in the world of Narnia. You can see it says down here, in Narnia, time did not feel any faster or slower than on Earth. For example, a year in our world took 365 days. However, the relative speed of Narnian time to Earth time was inconsistent and erratic, if I'm pronouncing it correctly. When one was on Earth, there was no way to tell how quickly Narnian time was going. Between the birth of Narnia, Earth year 1900, and the Pevensies, I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right because it's been a long time since I've watched the movies and stuff. It says, Forced visit 1940. 40 years passed on Earth while a millennium passed in Narnia. Between the Pevensies, forced to adventures in Narnia, 1 year passed for them on Earth, while nearly no millennium passed in Narnia. For another time, a week on Earth passed in only 10 minutes of Narnian time. Also, however, much time an inhabitant of Earth spent in Narnia, no time passed in England. For instance, during the Golden Age of Narnia, the Pevensies reigned in Narnia for 15 years. However, when they came back to England, their whole adventure seemed to have taken no time at all, and they were back at their previous ages. Was this idea really just a fantasy concept made up by the author? Or is it actually based on a real phenomena that happens when people travel to parallel universes or other types of universes? Some paranormal experiences people have actually describe something very similar. Within this video that talks about real stories of people traveling to other dimensions, which are basically the same as other universes or parallel universes, it mentions someone experiencing time passing differently in another world, very similar to the story of Narnia,
where time seemed to repeat. 3. In July 1973, I lived in a college dorm on Long Island, New York. I decided to take a walk to the local stores 3 blocks away. It was a residential neighborhood, and there was only one route to the stores. As I entered the first block, I remember thinking, I wish there was another route to the stores, as I was bored with this one. Right after that thought, I noticed strange things. First thing that caught my attention was the absolute silence, completely devoid of any sound. I spoke out loud, saying, "Why is it so quiet?" And my voice had a very odd, far away, tin-like sound to it. Then I noticed the environment had changed. The large modern homes that lined the streets were now smaller, more regimented houses. I looked around for someone to question, but saw no one. I also noticed that although this was summer, the trees were all bare as in winter, and everything seemed gray and white. This was so weird that I actually thought about knocking on someone's door, so I looked around for a house with a car in the driveway. And that's when I realized that none of these houses had driveways or garages, and I saw no cars. I continued to the stores, and as I exited the last block to the main street, everything reverted back to normal with sounds, traffic, and people. On my return trip back home, the same strange scenario happened again, but with one exception. When I got to the second block, I noticed a very green, park-like, manicured hill with a park bench that took up almost the whole block. I knew this park was not there on the first trip. When I exited the last of the 3 blocks, I crossed the street to go back to my dorm, and again everything reverted back to normal. The whole trip took approximately 90 minutes. I left the dorm at 3 p.m., and when I returned, the time on the same clock was 3:12 p.m. I checked other clocks as well. Somehow, I had gained over an hour of time. I've heard of missing time, but this was gained time. More strangeness. I was so unnerved by what happened that the next day I decided to walk that route again, thinking it would never happen again. Well, it did. Same time warp, but now when I got to the second block, I saw that the park was still there, but the bench on the hill was gone. I continued to the stores, still not hearing a sound or seeing any movement. On my return trip home, I proceeded cautiously. I took a few steps, then, in a blink, I was back in this strange place. Now, when I got to the second block, I saw the entire park was gone, and in its place the row of small regimented houses that I had seen on the very first trip. I am freaking out at this point. I returned to my dorm, and again I have gained time. The next time I walked that route, everything was back to normal.
The Bermuda Triangle is known to be a place where boats and aircrafts mysteriously disappear without an explanation. Some believe this is caused by these aircrafts and boats entering a portal that leads to another universe. One story from a pilot named Bruce Gornon flying over the Bermuda Triangle describes something that's also similar. It says, Bruce Gornon experienced something he couldn't explain and has never experienced again while flying over the Bermuda Triangle here. It says, he explains, I didn't believe in time travel teleportation until it happened to me. Fog surrounded my craft and I leapt ahead 100 miles. On this journey in 1970, he recalls flying through a dark cloud at 10,000 feet before reaching another at 11,000 feet. Flying through the second cloud, he writes that everything went pitch black with no sunlight at all. Moving towards a small light in the distance, he then faced his aircraft, behaving strangely. The controls of his aircraft appear to stop working, as he describes the plane being held and flown by a supernatural force. Once exiting the dark clouds, Gornon realized he had reached his destination of Miami, Florida, in just 45 minutes rather than the usual 90. With no explanation for how he managed to fly there in half the time, jumping has been put down to being one of the mysteries of the Bermuda Triangle. I think this means the dark clouds he went through were some type of portal that led to a different world. Then he went out of this portal, then returned back to our world. Irish mythology features a story about a mortal human named Oisin who meets this fairy being on a horse. Not the same type of fairy many people are familiar with, but these larger humanoid fairies. She then takes him across the sea to a land beyond the sea, like the lands beyond Antarctica, in a place called Tornanog, which is another name for the Otherworld. If you did not know, the Otherworld is the name of a different realm in Irish and other mythologies where supernatural beings live. In the story, Oisin spends a long time in the Otherworld happily with Nyama, who is the fairy being. But down here it says, Oisin lived in Tornanog for 300 years, but soon the longing to return to the Emerald Isle began to overcome his love of the land of eternal youth. Nyama did not want him to go, but she agreed, warning him that if he were to set foot on the soil of Ireland, he will never be able to return to Tornanog. Weissenreach Island to find that everything had changed. To him, it felt as though just 3 short years had passed instead of 300, meaning that time passed differently in the other world than how it passes on Earth. A Japanese fairy tale featuring somebody named Urashima Taro, sorry if I'm not pronouncing that correctly, mentions him as a fisherman rewarded for rescuing a sea turtle is carried to this dragon palace, which is some other realm. Then it says, there he is entertained by the Princess Otime, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, as a reward. He spends what he believes to be several days with the princess, but when he returns to his home village, he discovers he has been gone for at least 100 years. Ancient Hindu scriptures that speak of different worlds where the gods dwell also mention time moving differently. We can see these examples. It says Brahmaloka, which is a different world it's the realm of Brahma, the creator god, where time passes significantly slower than on Earth. 1 day for Brahma is said to be equivalent to 4.32 billion human years. It says Devaloka, the heavenly realms of the gods, devas, where a day also differs from an earthly day. 1 human year is equivalent to 1 day of the devas. Pitri Loka, the realm of the ancestors, Pitris, where a human month is equivalent to 1 day of the Pitri. King Kakadami's story. This tale from Mahabharata illustrates time dilation. King Kakadami travels to Brahmaloka seeking a suitable husband for his daughter Revati. He waits for a brief period to consult Brahma, and upon returning to Earth, finds that thousands of years have passed, and the potential husbands he had in mind are long dead. Modern theories about the multiverse, featuring multiple different universes, are similar to ancient Hindu cosmology, which featured there being multiple different worlds, or so many that like innumerable. But here you can see each of these bubbles represents a different multiverse, each containing numerous different worlds. Some of these are the dwelling place of an entity, or actually multiple entities with parallel versions of itself, called Mahavishnu, who rules over all the universes in his realm. But these realms have time, but there are different universes which are ruled over by different versions of the entity named Mahalakshmi, which are timeless realms, meaning they don't have time, so no time passes in these realms, while time passes by and exists in these realms. Aslan's country is a location in the story of Narnia. It says, Aslan's country was a divine and legendary land that was visible but not normally accessible from the world of Narnia in the sky, beyond the earthly atmosphere, to the utter east and the great Eastern Ocean, ruled by the Emperor beyond the sea and his son Aslan. It lay beyond the Silver Sea and the utter east, and ringed around the entire world, so it's encircling the world like a flat disk, as well as above the stars, and possibly beneath the underland, which is the underworld. So it is surrounding the world, but also above it and beneath it. Theories about flat Earth cosmology featured the lands beyond Antarctica surrounding the Earth, like ringing around it, similar to Aslan's country, and some theories even suggest that the lands beyond Antarctica attach to underground realms beneath the Earth, as well as heavenly realms in the heavens above the Earth, which are above the stars. In Narnia, the wood between the worlds is this forest-like place with puddles that are like portals to different worlds, including Earth, the world of Narnia, and innumerable other worlds, but it is located past the ends of the world of Narnia. So I think this might actually be some real place that connects multiple different worlds in the lands beyond Antarctica. Ancient cultures viewed stars as living entities. Just like in Narnia, stars are these entities with glowing light. Some sources related to the secret diary of Admiral Byrd mentioning him going to lands beyond the North or South Pole talks about him experiencing time moving differently while in these lands than returning to Earth, such as this.
We already talked about the animals were strange animals that we've never seen on our continent. So what type of inhabitants live here? I mean, he also described that time was moving slow there, so that suggests that he was there for a while, and by the time he got back to the regular continents that we know of, I guess what he's saying is not as much time passed as he would have thought. So that's very interesting. That goes on to almost my theory about it possibly being some type of portal. And also, if time moves slower there, that goes into my research about the North possibly being where the Garden of Eden was, where you would have a longer lifespan. Time would move much slower, and it's a beautiful place, and it's like summer all the time there, and that's basically what he's describing. I mean,
The Voyage of the Dawn Treader, which is the third book in the Narnia series, mentions the ends of the world where people and talking animals travel to, which indicates the world is flat. Take a look at this from the original book version of The Voyage of the Dawn Treader, which actually mentions the ends of the world, indicating that the world is flat, and also mentions lands beyond the ends of the world. We know those from the story of Admiral Byrd and others. So I think this proves that it is based on truth, that the story is more than just fiction or fantasy, but actually is based on some truth. It says, in this chapter is called The Beginning of the End of the World. So I think this is based on a true story, at least partially, but it says you must sail to the world's end. It says, "There's my heart's desire," said Reepicheep, "and are we near the world's end now, Sora?" asked Caspian. "Have you any knowledge of the seas and lands farther east than this?" Meaning lands beyond it. "I saw them long ago," said the old man, "but it was from a great height. I cannot tell you such things as sailors need to know." Then going down to the final chapter down here, it's called The Very End of the World. Over here it says, "I'm going with Reepicheep to see the world's end," said Caspian. Down there, then it says, "They saw a wonderhead. It was if a wall stood up between them and the sky, a greenish-gray, trembling, shimmering wall. It could be the ice wall of Antarctica or the domed firmament that is attached to the ice wall, maybe also forming another wall." And it says, "Then up came the sun, and at its first rising, they saw it through the wall," meaning this is something you can see through, like the firmament at the ends of the world in Antarctica. Then it says, "And it turned into wonderful rainbow colors. Then they knew that the wall was really a long, tall wave, maybe representing the waters beyond the firmament making a wave endlessly fixed in one place, like the firmament holding the waters into one place, as you may often see at the edge of a waterfall. It seemed to be about 30 feet high, and the current was gliding them swiftly towards it. You might have supposed they would have thought of their danger, but they didn't. I don't think anyone could have in their position. Well, now they saw something not only behind the wave, but behind the sun. They could not have seen even the sun if their eyes had not been strengthened by the water of the last sea. But now they could look at the rising sun and see it clearly and see things beyond it. What they saw eastward beyond the sun was a range of mountains. It was so high that now they never saw the top of it, or they forgot it. None of them remember seeing any sky in that direction, meaning it's the place beyond the firmament that makes the sky, or what the sky is. And it says, and the mountains must really have been outside the world, so they're beyond the ends of the world. For any mountains, even a quarter or a 20th of their height ought to have had ice and snow on them. But these were warm and green and full of forests and waterfalls, however high you looked. Yet it says over here, it says, no one in that boat doubted that they were seen beyond the end of the world into Aslan's country. So they are literally depicting lands beyond the ends of the world, depicted as the home of Aslan and his father, as well as other beings, very similar to the lands beyond Antarctica and the entities who dwell in them, which I think are the home of mythical creatures that are spoken of in ancient myths and also featured in Narnia. Notice how the story also mentioned a very large mountain range surrounding the world, which is similar to stories of Mount Kaf from Islamic traditions, which are described as enormous mountains which are encircling the earth. They are at the farthest point of the earth, meaning at the ends of the earth, and they encircle the world as these huge mountains. They are the dwelling place of jinn who live in cities of crystal at these mountains. Very fitting for the description of Aslan's country, saying it's described as a series of mountains more than 80 times taller than any mountains on Earth, but without snow or ice. Instead, Aslan's country has clear blue sky, lush green grass, colorful birds, and beautiful trees. There are entrances to Aslan's country from all worlds, including Narnia and the rising sun at the eastern edge of the world, and indeed rings around the whole Narnian world. Ancient Vedic cosmology also features a large mountain located in the realm beyond our Earth, or actually multiple large mountains in these realms, which I think are the lands beyond Antarctica. Here is a cosmology featuring this mountain, along with oceans and lands that surround it.
The Vedic universe is described in the 5th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam.
The central island of Bhumandala is called Jambudweep and is 100,000 yojanas or approximately 800,000 miles in diameter. The Golden Mountain Sumeru is 800,000 miles high, 128,000 miles wide at its base and 256,000 miles wide at its tip, tapered like the pericarp of a lotus flower. Jambudweep is surrounded by the saltwater ocean, which is also 800,000 miles wide. The next tract of land, known as Plakshadweep, is twice the width of Jambudweep, at 1,600,000 miles wide. All these lands of the greater earth are fully inhabited by humans, animals and plants, just as we experience here. The next surrounding ocean is of sugar cane juice and is also 1.6 million miles in width. Next is Samaladweep at twice the size again, 3.2 million miles. That land is bordered by an ocean of liquor at the same width, 3.2 million miles. Then Kushadweep is twice that width at 6.4 million miles. It's surrounded by an ocean of ghee or clarified butter at the same width, 6.4 million miles. Then Kronshadweep is 12.8 million miles in width, bordered by an ocean of milk at the same 12.8 million mile width. Then the land of Sakadweep is twice the width again, 25.6 million miles, bordered by an ocean of yogurt at the same width. The next tract of land is known as Pushkaradweep at a staggering 51.2 million miles wide, and divided all around the center by Manasotara Mountain, which is the path the sun travels around. That land is surrounded by an ocean of sweet water of the same width, 51.2 million miles. Beyond the ocean of sweet water is a tract of land as broad as the area between the middle of Mount Sumeru and the boundary of Manasotara Mountain. In that tract of land there are many living beings. Then there is another land, which is made of gold, which reflects light like the surface of a mirror, and all living entities have abandoned that golden land. The mountain known as Loka Loka has been installed as the outer border of the three worlds. Berloka, Duvaloka and Svaloka, to control the rays of the sun throughout the universe. All the luminaries, from the sun up to Druvaloka, distribute their rays throughout these three worlds, but only within the boundary formed by this mountain because it extends even higher than Druvaloka. It blocks the rays of the luminaries, which can never extend beyond it. The distance between Sumeru and the mountain known as Loka Loka is 1/4 of the diameter of the universe at 125 million yojanas or 1 billion miles. Outside Loka Loka mountain is the tract of land known as Aloka Varsha, which extends for the same breadth as the area within the mountain, 1 billion miles.
Terrain on the island of Jambudweep.
4 mountains each side of Sumeru are Mandara, Marumandara, Supashva and Kumuda, each 80,000 miles high. Standing like flagstaffs on the summits of these 4 mountains are a mango tree, a rose apple tree, a kadamba tree and a banyan tree, each with a width of 800 miles and a height of 8,800 miles. Their branches also spread to a huge radius of 8,800 miles. Those mountains are flanked by twin sets of mountains in the cardinal directions, 144,000 miles long and 16,000 miles in height and width. Then 6 huge mountain ranges mark the borders north and south of Mount Meru and are 16,000 miles wide, 80,000 miles high and stretch across to the ocean east to west. 2 mountain ranges east and west named Gandamadana and Malayavan reach 16,000 miles high. Mountains around the foot of Mount Meru are like the filaments around the whorl of a lotus flower. They are described to extend almost to the height of Meru itself. There are 9 islands or dweepas off the coast of Bharatvarsha. What we understand as Earth is just one of these islands. Although it's not specified in the Vedic texts, it appears the Earth is surrounded by the Antarctic Circle of ice that keeps the water inside the flat plain. Some Vedic texts do however state that the Earth receives its water from clouds, not the greater ocean, meaning it's isolated from the other islands and the rest of Jambudweep. The 9 divisions of Bharatvarsha are mutually inaccessible. They are Indradweep.
The Narnian world is home to talking animals, such as Aslan, the talking lion, Reepicheep, the talking mouse, talking beavers, and more. Ancient myths actually spoke of talking animals just like them. In ancient Greek mythology, there is mention of 5 ages of man which the world went through. There is the Golden Age, Silver Age, Bronze Age, the Age of Heroes, and the current Fallen Age, which is the Iron Age, which is a corrupted age that humans are currently in. But a long time ago in the past, Greek myths say there was a time called the Golden Age, in which people lived in peace with animals and gods in a wonderful world. During this time, animals had the ability to speak with humans, forming civilizations with them. We see a parallel in the Bible which talks about the snake on the tree of knowledge talking by telling Adam and Eve to eat the forbidden fruit. This is described as happening long ago in the past, in a paradise-like garden, similar to the Golden Age of Greek mythology. Additionally, the Bible mentions Balaam's donkey, who is a talking donkey. Native American mythology features Coyote, who is a trickster god that is this talking coyote. Some Native American legends also mention talking crows, plus there are many other myths about talking animals. The lion character in Narnia named Aslan is actually said to be the son of the Emperor over the sea, who is said to represent God, while Aslan represents the Son of God, who is Jesus. But it says Aslan is described as the king of beasts. Reminds me almost of the Lion King, where the lion, talking lion, is the king of the beasts. But it says the son of the emperor over the sea and the king above all high kings in Narnia. Like in the Bible, Jesus is the King of Kings. It even says C.S. Lewis often capitalizes the word lion in reference to Aslan, since he parallels Jesus as the Lion of Judah in Christian theology. It says down here, although Aslan can be read as an original character, parallels exist with Jesus. According to the author, Aslan is not an allegorical portrayal of Christ, but rather a suppositional incarnation of Christ himself, meaning that Aslan is this real creature that is one of the incarnations of God or Christ. I think there are many of them. I believe he incarnated as many different beings, including Jesus Christ of Bethlehem, as well as Aslan and numerous other beings. You can also see there are other parallels between Jesus and Aslan that can be read about here and other places. In the movie version, while they are at the ends of the world near the wave I talked about earlier, Aslan says this.
This is our last time here, isn't it?
Yes. You have grown up, my dear one. Just like Peter and Susan.
Will you visit us in our world?
I shall be watching you always.
How?
In your world, I have another name. You must learn to know me by it. That was the very reason you were brought to Narnia. That by knowing me here for a little, you may know me better there.
Will we meet again?
Yes, dear one. One day.
He has another name in our world, which is Jesus, or Yeshua, Yeshaya, whichever name you pronounce or think is correct. Supernatural experiences people have describe them as meeting different versions of themselves in parallel universes, which makes me think Aslan is a different version of who is Jesus in our universe. He could very well be an incarnation of a supreme being that exists outside the different universes and has incarnations in many of the different universes. Just like Hindu beliefs say, Mahavishnu and other beings incarnate as various different beings in different universes. We see a connection to what was said earlier about Aslan being the incarnation of God the Father or Jesus. While I am sure there is truth about people encountering this world and secretly hiding it from people, I think it is also true that what is done in different universes indirectly manifests as other versions of people and events and things in different universes, including what is labeled as fiction in our universe. Within the Chronicles of Narnia, the Emperor Beyond the Sea is the father of Aslan. So if Aslan is Jesus, then his father is God the Father. This is even confirmed by C.S. Lewis and others. But it says the emperor lived beyond the eastern edge of the Narnian world in what was often called Aslan's country. So he lived beyond the edge of the world. It says he is the ruler not only of Narnia, but of all worlds, including Earth. It also includes other worlds. So he is like this divine being that rules over different worlds, existing somewhere outside of the known multiverse. Then down here it says, the Emperor Beyond the Sea created the deep magic from the dawn of time and the deeper magic from before the dawn of time. So this is like some being that existed before time existed, and is outside the realms of time, like what some Hindu and other scriptures say. The Last Battle, which is the final book from the Narnia Chronicles series, mentions an apocalypse destroying the world, therefore ending it, resembling the apocalypse mentioned in the book of Revelation. You see that at the end it says, Aslan wakes Time, who rises into the sky like a giant among giants. Time raises a great horn to his mouth and sounds the call, like the trumpets blown during the end of the world in the Bible. It says the sky immediately fills with shooting stars, and the great starless patch forms as the stars fall to the ground around them. So stars are falling from the sky at the end of the world, like what is said in the book of Revelation. It says the stars in Narnia are people, and they land, falling behind Aslan and the humans. Their light shines into the darkness, enabling the onlookers to see all of what was happening. As the children watch, all the vegetation is eaten by lizards, dragons, and salamanders. Then it says, then all the people and animals, including those who had previously died, gather outside the door, either to join Aslan, otherwise talking beasts became dumb beasts if they choose the latter. Ones who refuse due to their hatred and fear, their own voices vanish into his shadow, never to be seen again, to fate unknown, even to the author. It is presumed that they went to the lair of Tash for their eternal damnation. Tash is viewed as some type of negative being like Satan, who is worshipped as a god by some of the beings of Narnia who are wicked. It also says, then the great dragons, salamanders, and giant lizards grow old, die, and brought into skeleton structures. The whole world, presumably as far as Bizum, which is this other place, is consumed by a great flood from the utter east to the utter west. Then the mountains in every location crumble and fall into the new body of water, similar to what is said in the book of Revelation. The water then reaches and hits the stable door, but does not pass. The sun rises, and it has become a dying red giant like the sun in the world of Charn. This is a different world that is separate from Earth and Narnia. That says, the moon rises and is consumed by the sun. Aslan orders Father Time to crush the sun like an orange, and almost immediately the great body of water starts to become solid ice. At Aslan's command, Peter closes the freezing door and locks it, thus bringing an end to the world of Narnia. It says, however, Aslan leads them away from their dead world and into his own country, which is Aslan's country. But in the last battle, there is a door that leads into Aslan's country after the apocalypse happens. But it says down here, it is also discovered that there are several worlds like it that... Hang on, let me read the part. It says, Diggory Cork described the old Narnia as an imperfect shadow or a copy of the Narnia in Aslan's country, and likened the difference to Plato's allegory of the cave, saying, it's all in Plato, bless me, what do they teach them at these schools? Again, pointing out how public schools indoctrinate people. Then it says, it is also discovered that there are several worlds like it that jut out from the mountains of Aslan's country. So this is like different worlds connecting to the same place in the lands beyond Antarctica, where they have all these different worlds. Next it says, it is where creatures from all worlds in the multiverse come to live at their deaths or the end of their worlds. So it is an afterlife realm. God is known to rule over an afterlife realm. So is the Emperor beyond the sea in Narnia. Perhaps this afterlife realm is a different afterlife realm than the one spoken of in myths and religions from around the world. Perhaps those afterlife realms come to an end, and when they come to an end, they enter this other realm that connects all of them.
Seeing Aslan is a king, we see a connection to old artwork that depict lions with crowns, sometimes found on coats of arms. Then there are old depictions of lions with shields and capes, indicating lions were treated like humans or had human-like intelligence, or what people label as human-like intelligence, despite many people thinking such types of lions do not exist. Another hint that Aslan represents God or a godly being is the fact that he is the creator of the world of Narnia, which he is said to have sung into existence, later to be joined with the stars who sung with him. Reflecting the Bible saying, God spoke the world into existence. Another connection to the Bible and Narnia is that the beings of Narnia call male humans sons of Adam, while female humans are called daughters of Eve. Oh, Narnia even mentions Lilith, who in non-canonical scripture banned from the Bible was the first wife of Adam. It says that some say that she went on to travel the road between the worlds and joined the company of angels and demons, many of whom she mated with and bore children with. Then it also mentions how the jinn race was said by some to be descended from Lilith's children. This is from Narnia. Whereas in Islamic tradition, jinn are a type of supernatural entities created from smokeless fire, who have free will like humans. A god named Tash, worshipped by the beings of Narnia, is also mentioned in the story. The Magician's Nephew is the first book of the Narnia series. It features someone named Andrew Ketterly, known as Uncle Andrew. Part of the story mentions them talking about this box as like this ancient artifact in one of the chapters. It says, "Of course," said Uncle Andrew, "I didn't dare to open the box for a long time, for I knew it might contain something highly dangerous. For my godmother was a very remarkable woman. The truth is, she was one of the last mortals in this country who had fairy blood in her. She said there had been two others in her time. One was a duchess, and the other was a charwoman. In fact, Diggory, you are now talking to the last man possibly who really had a fairy godmother. There, that'll be something for you to remember when you are an old man." And then it says, "How you do harp on that," said Uncle Andrew, "as if that was what mattered. My first task was, of course, to study the box itself. It was very ancient, and I knew enough even then to know that it wasn't Greek or Old Egyptian or Babylonian or Hittite or Chinese. It was older than any of those nations. Ah, that was a great day when I at last found out the truth. The box was Atlantean. It came from the lost island of Atlantis. That meant it was centuries older than any of the Stone Age things they dig up in Europe. And it wasn't rough, crude thing like them either. For in the very dawn of time, Atlantis was already a great city with palaces and temples and learned men." So, continue Uncle Andrew, "I was learning a good deal in other ways. It wouldn't be proper to explain them to a child about magic in general. That meant that I came to have a fair idea what sort of things might be in the box. By various tests, I narrowed down the possibilities. I had to get to know some devilish, queer people and go through some very disagreeable experiences." But down here it says, "The Atlantean box contains something that had been brought from another world when our world was only just beginning." "What?" asked Diggory, who was now interested in spite of himself. "Only dust," said Uncle Andrew. "Fine dry dust. Nothing much to look at. Not much to show for a lifetime of toil, you might say. Ah, but when I looked at that dust, I took jolly good care not to touch it, and thought that every grain had once been in another world. I don't mean another planet, you know. They are a part of our world." So I think this is referencing the lands beyond Antarctica, because he said it's not a planet like other planets in outer space, which should not really exist, but it's part of our world, like how the realms beyond Antarctica are connected to the Oort. And it says, and you could get to them if you went far enough. But a really other world, another nature, no universe, somewhere you will never reach even if you traveled through the space of this universe forever and ever, world that could be reached only by magic. This corresponds to ideas that the Oort is an infinite plane that is flat with the Oort in one place and an infinite amount of land beyond Antarctica. He also said that Atlantis was a civilization which existed during the dawn of time before the other civilizations of the Oort. In Greek myth, Atlantis was sunk by a flood into the ocean. Similar to how the Bible says the civilization of the past, which was the fourth civilization on the Oort at a certain time, was sunk by a great flood. Therefore, if Atlantis existed before the time of this flood, then it would mean that it existed before all these other civilizations that came to Oort in ancient times. Therefore, Atlantis existed during the dawn of human history, or at least the current human history. He also said he was one of the last people to have fairy blood in him, indicating fairies were more common in the past than they are in modern times, now being a creature most people don't encounter, whose existence has been hidden from us. Notice how some maps of lands beyond Antarctica, which are believed to have been given to people by the entities who live in such lands, or that they were gotten by people some other way, show Antarctica with these openings in it leading to lands beyond. You can see all these openings in the ice wall. The Lord of the Rings, which was originally a book series by J.R. Tolkien, but later became movies, shows something that looks similar. You can see this, I think, is like a hidden reference to this ice wall and the lands beyond it, because you can see openings. It's like a ring around the world with openings in it leading to lands beyond. Notice how on depictions of the flat Earth with the lands beyond Antarctica, they are like ring worlds, because this all world is rings around with the ice wall, then this other world is a ring around it. So the different worlds are like rings. So I believe the Lord of the Rings is secretly referencing these different worlds with the rings. Also hinting that there are lords of the rings, or beings who are like lords of these different realms, like beings who rule over them, which I think represents secret societies who are controlling our world, as well as maybe other beings who rule over these worlds, including ours and perhaps others. In the fiction, this is said to be a reference to these physical magical rings, but I think this is actually secretly a hidden reference to different worlds or ring worlds. You can see in their depiction of the ring, you can even see it looks like these letters surrounding it, like a circular ring world with openings in it that lead out. You can see they are called the Rings of Power. It says the one ring first appeared as a plot device, a magic ring in Tolkien's children's fantasy novel The Hobbit. Tolkien later gave it a backstory and much greater power. He added 19 other great rings, which also conferred powers such as invisibility, and which the one ring could control. These were the 3 rings of the elves, the 7 rings for the dwarves, and the 9 for men. So, if these rings represent different worlds, it makes me think the 9 rings represent the 9 worlds from Norse mythology depicted on the world tree. In Norse myth, these worlds are even described as being reachable if you travel beyond the world humans live in, just like
the lands beyond Antarctica. In Norse mythology, one of the 9 worlds is called Midgard. You can see here it translates to Middle Yard and can also sometimes translate to Middle Earth. One of the realms the Lord of the Rings takes place in is even called Middle Earth. Many beings viewed as mythical or fictional by most people are mentioned in The Lord of the Rings. This includes elves, like those from ancient myths, then dragons, trolls, ents, who are these human-like plant beings, entities called orcs, and different beings too, which makes me think they represent the beings who live in worlds beyond the South Pole. In a house built into the earth, the Lord of the Rings depicts living there a creature called the Hobbit or Hobbits, which are depicted as very similar to humans but smaller in size, similar to dwarfs or dwarves from ancient myths. If you remove the end letters of the word hobbit, it says hob, which in English folklore is this creature. It says a hob is a type of small mythological household spirit found in the English Midlands, Northern England, and the Anglo-Scottish border. According to traditional folklore of those regions, they could live inside the house or outdoors. They are said to work in farmyards and thus could be helpful. However, if offended, they could become nuisances. The usual way to dispose of a hob was to give them a set of new clothing, the receiving of which would make the creature leave forever. It could, however, be impossible to get rid of the worst hobs. And then it says, hob is sometimes a generic term given to a goblin, bogle, or brownie, which is like this small humanoid being, similar to a dwarf, therefore the same as the Hobbit from The Lord of the Rings. And it's also mentioned in Harry Potter, if I remember correctly. In the myths and folklore of Iceland, there is a small race of invisible humans called the Huldufolk. People who believe in them, or say they have contact with them, have made houses for them, which are built into the ground of the earth. A lot like the Hobbit house from The Lord of the Rings, demonstrating reality connected to fantasy. Gandalf is the name of a wizard in The Lord of the Rings, who is depicted as a human capable of using magic. While not directly related to elves, he is depicted as walking among them in the story. There is actually somebody in Norse mythology named Gandalf. We see it says Gandalf, Old Norse Gandalfri, I don't know how to pronounce that, but is a Vorgorj, or I don't know how to pronounce that either, but it says a Norse dwarf in Norse mythology, appearing in the so-called Tally of the Dwarves when the poem Voluspa, I'm not sure how to pronounce it, from the Poetic Edda, as well as the Prose Edda. The name derives from the Old Norse words Gondor, magical entity, just like Gandalf is a wizard with magic in The Lord of the Rings. It says e.g. wands, monsters, etc. And Alfor, elf, like he has some connection to elves. Thus, a protective spirit who wields a magical wand. So maybe the real Gandalf is a dwarf? That is one possibility, but another possibility is that Gandalf from The Lord of the Rings is secretly based on Gandalf Alfgrisson, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, which was said to be in Norse mythology a legendary king of the petty kingdom Alfheim. Well,
Elfheim is actually translated as elf home, showing a connection to elves. We can see historically this was a real place which they called Elfhome, which makes me think the elves were real, and this proves it because why would they call something the home of the elves if it didn't actually have elves in it? But this name is also Alfheim, or which is also the name in Norse mythology for a different world. They have the same name, which is the land of the elves. It's one of the 9 worlds in Norse mythology, which is different than the place I just showed you back here, which has the same name, but it is considered real. I think these are separate places that are both connected to the race of elves. The Smurfs is about these small, human-like, blue beings, which are called Smurfs. They live inside these mushroom houses. Gargamel, the villain of the story, is depicted as trying to harm and sometimes eat the Smurfs. He is said to be a human who is larger than the Smurfs. I do not think that the Smurfs exist exactly like how they are depicted in fiction. I think that is fiction mixed with truth. In reality, I think the Smurfs is actually about humans, or the beings related to humans or us, in the ancient past. I'm sure small beings like elves and fairies exist too, and like gnomes and stuff, but the Smurfs, I think, are depicting the ancient human society a long time ago when humans were blue. I believe in the ancient past there were multiple races of humans, including blue people and the people we see today and others. Some say the mystic Helena Blavatsky taught that there are at least 5 root races of humans which existed during different times throughout the past, which includes the current race of humans as well as the Lemurians, the Atlanteans, and others. But the first root race were androgynous blue beings like humans called the Polarians, likely coming from some region beyond the polar areas, just like the second root race, known as the Hyperboreans, that come from the land of Hyperborea beyond the North Pole. It is even thought modern humans descended from these ancient root races, making them our ancestors. Hindu tradition speaks of blue gods such as Vishnu and Krishna, who I believe are related to the types of beings the Smurfs are. In fact, Krishna is said to be one of 10 spiritual avatars of the god Vishnu. In Hindu tradition, avatars are incarnations of a deity or god. So I see a connection with the film Avatar, which is about these blue-skinned beings. Compared to humans, these blue beings are larger than them, making a connection to myths of giant humanoid beings existing in the past, such as the Nephilim from the Bible, or other myths of different types of giant humanoid beings. But in Avatar, humans actually try to capture them, which I think represents secret government programs to capture mythical beings and hide their existence from the public. The world of Avatar even features these enormous trees. In Avatar, there is a scene where the blue beings are attacked by this military group, which I think could very well represent how governments tried to destroy races of mythical beings to hide their existence. But I think this has more than one meaning hidden in plain sight, because in this scene they try to, and actually successfully do, this to destroy the tree, one of these giant trees, which eventually causes it to fall. As you can see here, the giant tree is being destroyed. Next, we see it falling. I think this is showing a real event that happened in the past that involved the Nephilim giants. Feel free to look into the truth about this fact if you have not already. About these formations actually being petrified tree stumps. Basically about how mesas, some mountains, and other rock formations are actually giant petrified tree stumps, unlike something formed by lava or another process like what mainstream science falsely claims. Other myths about blue humans can be found. The Blue Men of the Minch are legendary creatures in Scottish myths, described as looking a lot like humans except being blue in color. They dwell in the waterways of Scotland, waiting to drown sailors and sink boats. They can also create storms. In addition to the remains of giant trees being petrified, those who research mud fossils know that giant mushrooms were also petrified, as we can see, with numerous mushroom rock formations around the world. So I see a connection with the houses of the Smurfs, which are depicted as large mushrooms. Fairy chimneys are a type of rock formation that resemble large mushrooms, which appear to be used as home for some type of beings, like humans, which I think are the same race of beings the Smurfs are based on. While it is made to seem like Gargamel is just a human, I think there's a hidden truth that he is really a representation of one of the Nephilim giants who lived during the ancient past at the same time as the Blue People. Because Gargamel is depicted as being larger than the Smurfs, like a giant to them. So I think this is secretly showing a time in the past when there were blue people and giants roaming the earth. rather than blue people that are small to us. Also, keep in mind Gargamel sometimes wants to eat the Smurfs, resembling legends of giants eating people before the flood of Noah. The Smurfs are named after what they do or who they are or what is related to them, such as Brainy, Clumsy, Papa Smurf, Jokey, Handy, and all the others. Similar to how, in ancient times, unlike in modern times, people were named after what they did or what was related to them. This is done in the Bible and other ancient sources. Notice how the Smurfs have these pointed hats that are red or white, similar to the hats of gnomes, which are mythical small humanoids who have now become what are known as garden gnomes, also resembling the hats the mythical small people called dwarfs or dwarves are sometimes depicted with. Oh, another type of hat that is similar is called the Phrygian cap. You can see it right here. Well, different depictions. They had these in ancient times, including beings like Mithras had them, who is the god of Mithraism. Then there are these other beings that have them. Yet, if we look at some depictions, they are red, like the cap or hat of Papa Smurf. Here we see part of an ancient statue that quite resembles a Smurf. A lot of you probably already know the story of Alice in Wonderland, which was originally a book that was later turned into movies. But if not, it is basically about this girl named Alice who is outside one day, then sees this upright moving rabbit with a clock, who she follows to a rabbit hole. She goes through this rabbit hole, which leads her to this whole entire different world called Wonderland, filled with beings considered unusual to many people, such as talking animals. Someone called the Mad Hatter, who is known for hosting a tea party considered unusual to many, which in some versions of the story is set on an outdoor table that is endlessly long, forming a perpetual tea party. The Queen of Hearts, along with her servants who resemble playing cards, and others. The world of Wonderland is even filled with these giant mushrooms. You know, like those enormous mushrooms I talked about that were all over the earth in our past, but are now petrified? Well, I think such types of mushrooms still exist and are growing in other worlds, even though the ones on our earth have been petrified and turned to stone. Let's look at some of the history of Alice in Wonderland. You can see here that it says the character Alice was based on a real little girl named Alice Liddell. You can see her here. You can see this is who she is based on. But this version looks a little different than her story version. So I think Alice in Wonderland is partially based on a true story, but not entirely. Then down here you can see
It says little orange Dodge, I don't know how to pronounce that, to write the story down, and he gifted her the first manuscript. So she was telling him to write this story. So she was telling him of a true story, I think, that he might have changed. But it says the first manuscript, which he illustrated himself in November 1864, titled Alice's Adventures Underground. It says the story was eventually published with illustrations by John Tenniel as Alice's Adventures in Wonderland in 1865. So the original story was called Alice's Adventures Underground, meaning Alice traveled to an underground realm. Her story sounds similar to many stories of people traveling to underground realms of the Hollow Earth, which is basically people finding these underground realms beneath the earth, filled with life, vegetation, water, civilizations, sometimes advanced technology, sometimes magic, and a lot of other stuff. In this article about the supposedly fictional country of Wonderland, it says when Alice is in Wonderland, it says he has Alice speculate whether it is near the center of the earth or even the antipodes, meaning she was somewhere deep within the earth in an underground civilization. Then you can see another name for this place is the Underland. There is a story written in 1895 called Etidorpa, which is about this journey to the Hollow Earth, where this person meets this mysterious entity called I Am the Man, but says, by his account, the speaker is kidnapped by fellow members of a secret society because he is suspected to be a threat to their secrecy. These secret societies are like hiding the existence of these underground realms. It says this was likely based on the 1826 kidnapping of William Morgan, which is a real event that happened, which some believe to be was him being kidnapped by members of secret societies for bad reasons. And it says, and the start of the anti-Masonry movement, which is really a movement to expose sinister Freemasons. It says, I Am the Man is taken to a cave in Kentucky. There he is led by a cavern dweller on a long subterranean journey. It becomes an inner journey of the spirit as much as a geographical trip through underground realms. So he goes to this underground realm, which has various forms of life, including giant mushrooms, paralleling the fact Wonderland is an underground realm with giant mushrooms. Notice this story also mentions someone finding an entrance to the underground realm in a cave in Kentucky. Well, there's actually this real cave in Kentucky called Mammoth Cave. You can see here it says, as of 2025, more than 426 miles of passageways had been surveyed. So this is a very long cave going on for hundreds of miles. So it would make sense that it would eventually connect to an underground realm. In fact, we are told it has not been fully explored, meaning there are still places in it that I think have entrances to underground realms. As for Alice in Wonderland, in the story, Alice encounters a living dodo. In some stories of people exploring the Hollow Earth, they say they see creatures that mainstream science claims are extinct living in these realms. Dodos are claimed to be extinct, but I believe they're really still around, unlike what modern science claims. The White Rabbit is a character in Alice in Wonderland who is depicted as a rabbit who walks or hops like a human. Alice following the white rabbit down the rabbit hole actually has symbolic meaning. We find this in the film The Matrix.
What? What the hell? Oh, white rabbit.
Do you want to know what it is? The Matrix is everywhere. It is all around us. Even now, in this very room. You can see it when you look out your window or when you turn on your television. You can feel it when you go to work, when you go to church, when you pay your taxes. It is the world that has been pulled over your eyes to blind you from the truth.
What truth?
That you are a slave, Neo. Like everyone else, you were born into bondage, born into a prison that you cannot smell or taste or touch. A prison for your mind. Unfortunately, no one can be told what the Matrix is. You have to see it for yourself. This is your last chance. After this, there is no turning back. You take the blue pill, the story ends. You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to believe. You take the red pill, you stay in Wonderland, and I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes.
By following the white rabbit, it could lead us to freedom from the Matrix. When we find truths about the world we live in and what is spiritual, we are going down a rabbit hole. The farther we go down this rabbit hole, the more truths we learn, the more secrets are revealed. At the end of the rabbit hole, we enter Wonderland and are freed from the false world, which is the Matrix, into a land of wonder, or true reality. Sometimes the white rabbit can represent truth, so we follow the truth. Thus, we are symbolically and spiritually going down a rabbit hole of truth. But there are actually cases where people say they are experiencing this phenomena where they see white rabbits randomly in many different places. This can be images of white rabbits or actual living white rabbits, or maybe the word white rabbit, or something indicating there's a white rabbit. Some believe this is more than simple coincidences and is actually some type of paranormal phenomena, which leads us to the truth, because when they follow the white rabbit, they find something like some hidden truth or something else valuable to them. Some people say this happens in their dreams where they see the white rabbit, or in physical reality too. I think it is some type of message helping us go down the rabbit hole. Okay, now let's look at some spiritual associations people make with the white rabbit. It says they represent purity and innocence. The white rabbit symbolizes untamed goodness, truth, like when people follow the white rabbit, they are led to truth, and spiritual clarity, transformation and growth, a powerful guide. So this white rabbit is guiding us. Like when we follow the white rabbit, it is guiding us to esoteric knowledge and truth on journeys of self-discovery and personal evolution. Fertility and renewal represents new beginnings, creative energy, and spiritual abundance. Lunar connection, linked to the moon, intuition, and hidden wisdom, like hidden knowledge and wisdom we find by following it, and main traditions. Good luck and prosperity, seen as a harbinger of positive change and blessings. Mythological significance, revered in Celtic, Native American, and East Asian folklore as a messenger of divine wisdom. So it is a messenger. It sends messages to us. So when we see the white rabbit often, you'll gain messages from a divine being. It says dream interpretation often signifies guidance, trust in the unknown, or uncovering hidden truths. So we find the hidden truths by following the white rabbit. Also, when it appears in our dreams, it is giving us a message through our dreams, like what spiritual beings are known to do. It says spiritual ally, using meditation rituals to enhance clarity, focus, and spiritual alignment. So it's one of our spiritual allies. And it says symbol of hope, encourages perseverance and trust during times of uncertainty or challenge. Connection to feminine art, explore deeper cultural and symbolic meanings of the white rabbit in art and narratives. We'll get to that in a little bit. And it says the spiritual symbolism of the white rabbit. The white rabbit has long been a symbol of spiritual significance across various cultures, spiritual practices, and mythologies. Its presence often carries profound meanings, reflecting themes of purity, transformation, and guidance. Below, we delve deeply into the white rabbit's spiritual symbolism, exploring its historical roots, interpretation, and its relevance in modern spiritual practices. White rabbit as a symbol of purity and innocence. The color white is universally associated with purity, clarity, and innocence. When paired with the rabbit, a creature often seen as gentle and harmless, the white rabbit becomes a symbol of untamed goodness and spiritual awakening. It represents a state of being free from corruption, embodying the qualities of trust and vulnerability. In spiritual practices, encountering or visualizing a white rabbit often signifies a need to return to pure intentions, strip away negativity, focus on truth and authenticity. I forget how to pronounce that, but this is when we encounter the white rabbit, it's showing us this, just like we know when we follow the white rabbit, this happens. And it says, it serves as a gentle reminder to cleanse the mind and spirit from harmful influence. A guide, so it's guiding us through transformation. One of the most well-known associations of the white rabbit in popular culture stems from Lewis Carroll's Alice's Adventures in Wonderland. The white rabbit leads Alice down the rabbit hole, a metaphor for embarking on a journey of self-discovery and transformation. Spiritually, this narrative holds significant meaning. The white rabbit is seen as a spiritual guide, so it is like one of our spirit guides that shows us the white rabbit, or the truth to follow to lead us deeper down the rabbit hole. It can show us the white rabbit, but it can also show us some type of truth or something else to lead us down the journey of a rabbit hole. This says, nudging individuals toward new beginnings and urging them to take leaps of faith. In this context, it symbolizes inner growth, a prompt to explore uncharted territories of the soul. Breaking limitations, letting go of fears that hinder spiritual progress. Divine guidance, following intuition to navigate life's mysteries. Connection to fertility and renewal. In various cultures, rabbits symbolize fertility and abundance, and the white rabbit extends its idea into the spiritual realm. It represents the renewal of energy, creativity, and life. Seeing a white rabbit may signal a fertile period for spiritual growth, new ideas, and a deeper connection to universal energies. For those embarking on spiritual journeys, the white rabbit may be assigned to trust the process and remain open to limitless possibilities. It is a message to embrace the cycle of life with patience and optimism. White rabbit and lunar symbolism. Rabbits are closely associated with the moon in many traditions, particularly in East Asian folklore, where the rabbit is seen as a companion to the moon goddess. The white rabbit in this case is believed to hold mystical connections to lunar energy, representing intuition, feminine power, and the hidden wisdom of the night. So it's like hidden wisdom or hidden knowledge, hidden truth. Spiritually, the white rabbit appearing during moments of doubt or confusion might indicate the need to trust your inner voice so it can appear to us and reflect on your emotions. It aligns with lunar cycles, urging individuals to find balance and harmony in their lives. A messenger of good luck and prosperity. Again, we see its connection to being a spiritual messenger. It says, in various cultures, a spotted white rabbit is considered a sign of good fortune. This belief ties into the spiritual interpretation that the white rabbit brings messages of positive change and abundance. Well, it's appearing in dreams, like what I said earlier, people seeing the white rabbit in their dreams, visions, or physical sightings, like people seeing them, like I said earlier, physically. It says the white rabbit is often seen as a herald of new opportunities, financial or material growth, spiritual protection, and blessings. Many people believe that encountering a white rabbit is a sign to remain optimistic and proactive as the universe aligns circumstances in your favor. The white rabbit in dream interpretations. Dreams featuring white rabbits carry unique spiritual messages based on the context of the dream. Common interpretations include following your path. If the rabbit is leading you, it could signify the need to trust your journey, even if it feels uncertain. Purity of love and relationships. White rabbit in a loving or peaceful context might indicate trust and loyalty in relationships. Hidden truths, like we know it leads us to hidden truths. If the rabbit is elusive or hard to follow, it might symbolize something hidden that you need to uncover within yourself or your environment. By paying close attention to the behavior and surroundings of the white rabbit in a dream, individuals can uncover profound spiritual insights. White rabbit as a symbol in meditation and spiritual practice. In spiritual rituals, the white rabbit can be invoked or visualized during meditation as a symbol of guidance and clarity. Practitioners may use the imagery of a white rabbit to strengthen intuition. The rabbit is a reminder to trust instincts and embrace spiritual awareness. Clear mental fog. Meditating on the rabbit can bring focus and clarity to chaotic thoughts. Manifest abundance. White rabbits as symbols of fertility can help set intentions for growth and prosperity. This symbolism makes the white rabbit a powerful spiritual ally for those seeking to enhance their connection with their higher selves. White rabbit in mythology and folklore. Celtic traditions. In Celtic mythology, rabbits and hares were considered sacred animals with a connection to the other world. So they're like spiritual beings that can be viewed. The white rabbit was thought to be a messenger from the gods. Like when we see the white rabbit is a spiritual message. It says appearing during pivotal moments to deliver divine messages. So the white rabbit sends us messages, well, through white rabbit imagery, words, or other kinds of messages, like hidden truths and others. Native American beliefs. Some Native American tribes associate rabbits with quick thinking and resourcefulness, while the white rabbit holds a sacred position, symbolizing peace and harmony with nature. Chinese folklore. In Chinese mythology, the jade rabbit resides on the moon. This is hinting that the moon, or actually telling us that the moon is not what they claim it is, and that it is this place where supernatural beings dwell, including rabbit-like beings. And it says it's also related to the hollow moon beliefs about beings inside the moon. But it says, and is a symbol of immortality and wisdom. The white rabbit in this sense connects to themes of longevity, enlightenment, and spiritual evolution. White rabbit as a symbol of hope. Perhaps the most comforting aspect of the white rabbit symbolism is its representation of hope and perseverance. I don't think I'm pronouncing that right. When life feels challenging, the appearance of a white rabbit reminds us that better days are ahead. It urges us to keep moving forward, even when the path feels uncertain or overwhelming. But back up here, we can look at this article. Then it says, Introduction to White Rabbit Symbolism. While rabbits have been linked to lots of myths and tales through time, they are seen as symbols of fertility and good luck in some cultures and warnings of bad omens in others. In religious stories since ancient times, the white rabbit has also represented journeys of transformation and rebirth. Like when we follow the white rabbit down the whole rabbit hole, it is a journey. In Celtic mythology, the sight of a white rabbit meant good luck when beginning something new. The Druids believed that the white rabbit was a spirit guide, so it's a spirit guide that sends us messages. Like I said earlier, similar to what I said earlier at least, it says predicting success or warning of issues ahead. In Christianity, white rabbits are connected to Easter. They symbolize hope and renewal when Jesus Christ rose from the dead. This idea has spread to modern culture, where white rabbits are often seen as symbols of progress and success because of their connection with resurrection. So we see a connection with Jesus, like when rabbits come out in the spring, it is when Jesus rose from the dead too. Jesus is connected to angels, and there are some associations that link the white rabbit to spirit guides, along with the idea spirit guides can be angels. Next it says here, in Chinese culture, the Chinese zodiac has a white rabbit too, which stands for qualities like trustworthiness, fearlessness, prudence, generosity, gentleness, kindness, and beauty. All these traits are seen as important by many cultures who value personal growth and success. White rabbit symbolism has been around for centuries, and it has different meanings in all kinds of cultures around the world. Rabbit mythology and folklore, the moon goddess. Rabbit mythology and folklore are rich and diverse, spanning across various cultures and continents. In many cultures, rabbits were considered sacred animals associated with fertility, abundance, and good luck. For instance, in ancient Egypt, rabbits were linked to the goddess Isis, revered as a symbol of motherhood and fertility. The ancient Egyptians saw the white rabbit as a divine messenger, again with the messenger symbolism, bridging the earthly and spiritual realms, similar to beliefs about angels delivering messages from the spiritual realm to the earthly realm, or like being a bridge between the two realms which deliver messages to the two different realms. In Chinese culture, the rabbit is one of the 12 animals of the Chinese zodiac, representing gentleness, kindness, and elegance. The moon rabbit, a beloved figure in Chinese mythology, is said to live on the moon with the moon goddess, Changji, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, symbolizing immortality and renewal. This celestial rabbit is a testament to the rabbit's ability to transcend earthly limitations and embody the essence of transformation. Native American cultures often depict rabbits as tricksters, known for their cunning and cleverness. The Ojibwe people, I don't know if I pronounced that correctly, for example, have a legend about the rabbit spirit, which is said to have created the world and all living things. The trickster archetype highlights the rabbit's resourcefulness and adaptability, traits that have endured it to many cultures. In Celtic mythology, the rabbit is associated with the goddess Ostri, if I don't know how to pronounce that, celebrated during the spring equinox. Ostri's connection to the rabbit underscores themes of rebirth and renewal, as the rabbit's prolific breeding symbolizes its fertility and the promise of new beginnings. Rabbits have also been featured in various folk tales and fairy tales, often symbolizing innocence, vulnerability, and cleverness. The most famous example is probably Lewis Carroll's Alice's Adventures in Wonderland, where the white rabbit leads Alice down the rabbit hole, symbolizing the journey into the unknown. This iconic image has cemented the white rabbit's place in our collective imagination as a guide to new and wondrous experiences, so the white rabbit guides us down the rabbit hole. Historical and cultural significance of the white rabbit in the Chinese zodiac. The white rabbit is a symbol known worldwide and throughout many cultures. It brings hope, beginnings, and tranquility, as well as gentleness, kindness, innocence, and humility. The rabbit reminds us of empathy and compassion in our interactions with others. In Chinese symbology, it is linked to the moon goddess Changji and symbolizes long life and mortality. I think I already said that earlier, but let's continue. In literature, the white rabbit often stands for wisdom and intuition. For example, in Alice in Wonderland, when Alice falls down the rabbit hole, the white rabbit leads her to explore different aspects of herself. In religion, it represents faith in God or higher power. Hindus connect it to Lord Shiva, and Buddhists believe it brings luck and fortune. The white rabbit symbolizes potential. It shows us even small creatures can shape history and help us understand ourselves better, both on a personal and cultural level. Literary representations of the white rabbit in Lewis Carroll's works. The white rabbit has a special meaning in literature, such as fantasy and children's books. The most famous example of this is Alice's Adventures in Wonderland. White Rabbit takes Alice on a journey through Wonderland. He quickly moves and then disappears.
This symbolizes Alice growing up and having to make her own decisions. The most famous example of the White Rabbit in literature is Lewis Carroll's Alice's Adventures in Wonderland. The White Rabbit is also seen in other stories. C.S. Lewis's Prince Caspian and J.K. Rowling's Harry Potter series mention the White Rabbit as a sign of luck. So again, we see the White Rabbit being some type of sign that's like sent to people. Modern authors such as Julia Donaldson, Philippa Pearce, I don't know how to pronounce that, and Neil Gaiman also use the White Rabbit as a symbol. In Gaiman's Caroline, there is a white mouse who guides Caroline through the world of dreams, so it's a guide that is related to this. Rabbit symbolism in art, themes and interpretations. Rabbit symbolism in art is a rich and diverse topic, with various themes and interpretations emerging. Across cultures and historical periods, in many artworks, rabbits are often depicted as gentle, innocent creatures symbolizing purity and vulnerability. For example, in Renaissance European art, rabbits are often shown at the feet of the Virgin Mary, reinforcing their association with divine grace and purity. So no connection to those in heaven or those who are connected to them, showing a connection to angels. In contrast, some artworks feature rabbits as tricksters or shapeshifters, highlighting their cunning adaptability. In Chinese art, the moon rabbit is a common motif, symbolizing longevity, fertility, and good fortune. In some African cultures, rabbits are depicted as powerful symbols of fertility and abundance, often associated with the goodness of fertility. In modern and contemporary art, rabbits continue to be a source of inspiration, symbolizing a range of concepts from playfulness to existential reflection. If I'm pronouncing that correctly. Artists such as Jeff Koons have used rabbits to explore themes of consumerism and cultural perception. The versatility of rabbit symbolism in art reflects the complex and multifaceted nature of this beloved creature. The rabbit hole, a symbol of transformation. White rabbits have been linked to lots of myths and tales through time. They are seen as symbols of fertility and good luck in some cultures, and warnings of bad omens in others. So again, the omen symbolism of them being signs. In religious stories since ancient times, the white rabbit has also represented journeys of transformation and rebirth. In Celtic mythology, the sight of a white rabbit meant good luck when beginning something new, so that tells you something when you see it. So it's like this. And it says the Druids believed that the white rabbit was a spirit guide, predicting success or warning of issues ahead. In Christianity, white rabbits are connected to Easter. They symbolize hope and renewal when Jesus Christ rose from the dead. Religious and spiritual significance of the white rabbit. The white rabbit is renowned for its spiritual symbolism in art and literature. In Christianity, the white rabbit is seen as a sign of purity, innocence, and faith. This is due to rabbits' a connection with fresh starts and rebirth, which links to their fast regeneration rate. Ancient Egyptians viewed the white rabbit as an incarnation of the goddess Isis. Elderly Egyptians nicknamed her the white rabbit, feeling she spoke to them from deep within their souls. So again, we should see a divine white rabbit. Like modern dream symbolism, where white rabbits stand for divine revelations. So people seeing the white rabbit in their dreams means something. Some believe the animal also symbolizes insight from the sacred source. White rabbits are not only spiritual symbols in many ancient cultures, they are also symbols of fertility. Rabbits have a great ability to produce large litters, making them bridgers between human souls, seeking spiritual fulfillment and divine source, which grants blessings. So they're like a bridge between the spirit world and the earthly realm. Again, we see this same symbolism. For this reason, some see them as symbols of protection and luck against evil forces or spirits. Psychological significance. The white rabbit has been a symbol of fascination for centuries, representing purity, fertility, and intuition. So as a reminder of our relationship with nature. It also stands for fearlessness and mental agility, with its quick movements and unpredictable actions, showcasing the rabbit's ability to navigate complex situations and adapt swiftly. Psychologically, the white rabbit can unlock repressed memories and help us rediscover forgotten dreams. Now, dream association. Its association-focused nature encourages us to trust ourselves and our inner voice, even if it takes us down unexpected paths.
The white rabbit's ability to transform time teaches us to go with the flow of life instead of clinging to fixed plans, despite being timid and strange. It's seen as a possessing inner strength that can be tapped into when needed. By taking a moment to look inward during difficult times, we can adjust to change and grow. White rabbits have been linked to lots of myths and tales through time. They are seen as for symbols of fertility and good luck in some cultures. I think I already said this earlier. But it says, in Celtic mythology, the sight of a white rabbit meant good luck when beginning something new. I think I also said this earlier. But it says, and warnings of bad omens and others. In religious stories since ancient times, the white rabbit has also represented journeys of transformation and rebirth, like we're going on a journey down the rabbit hole. In Celtic mythology, the sight of a white rabbit meant good luck when beginning something new. I think I also said this too. Okay, but let's read it again. The Druids believed that the white rabbit was a spirit guide predicting success or warning of issues ahead. In Christianity, white rabbits are connected to Easter. They symbolize hope and renewal when Jesus Christ rose from the dead. This idea has spread to modern culture, where white rabbits are often seen as symbols of progress and success because of their connection with resurrection. The rabbit's ability to navigate complex situations with intelligence, showcasing themes of cunning, agility, and adaptability, is also celebrated in various cultural narratives and folklore. In Chinese culture, the Chinese zodiac has a white rabbit too, which stands for qualities like trustworthiness, fearlessness, prudence, generosity, gentleness, kindness, and beauty. I think I already read this, but I think I also had some new stuff down here. It says, popular uses of the white rabbit, or read something similar. Symbolism. White rabbit symbolism has been around for centuries. Lewis Carroll popularized it in his novel Alice's Adventures in Wonderland. Bugs Bunny, who is a humanoid rabbit similar to the white rabbit from Alice in Wonderland, a notable character who embodies cleverness, resourcefulness, and playfulness, also illustrates how rabbits have been incorporated into various cultural narratives and media representations. Thus, many characters from literature and art and pop culture have used the white rabbit or taken on its qualities. These include innocence, speed, adventure, and trustworthiness. Here are some of the most popular uses of the white rabbit symbol. Alice's Adventure in Wonderland. The white rabbit guide leads Alice, so it's guiding her like a spirit guide, through her adventures in a strange and surreal world. Alice follows the white rabbit down a deep rabbit hole, discovering new beginnings and more about herself. Go skip some of these, because you can read about them if you want, though. It says, the white rabbit in art and media. The white rabbit has been popular in stories, art, and media for centuries. It often serves as a guide or mentor to protagonists on their journeys of self-discovery. Again, there's the guide. Psychoanalyst, I pronounced that correctly, Carl Jung said it symbolizes psychological transformation. In art, the white rabbit is an iconic image in many styles. The rabbit's symbol, including the three-rabbit symbol, is often explored for its artistic appeal and adoring mystery. It symbolizes recovery from hardship, guidance, again the guidance, innocence, or passage to another realm. So it's like connecting realms, maybe, but the three-rabbit symbol, with its representation of three hairs in a circular formation, holds significant cultural and historical importance, often associated with tranquility and reincarnation in Buddhism. Recently, it was featured in TV shows like Once Upon a Time and video games like Alice Madness Returns. Small interpretations captivate audience with stunning graphics and suspenseful storylines. The white rabbit symbolizes a guide and door to different worlds, so it's a guide. We see that again. He guides us down an unexpected path full of imagination and excitement. His presence opens the door to vast exploration. He symbolizes curiosity, endless chances, and taking risks. No matter how chaotic the journey, he remains committed to his mission. Okay, conclusion. In conclusion, the white rabbit is a complex and multifaceted symbol representing a wide range of themes and meanings across various cultures and contexts, from its association with fertility and abundance in ancient cultures to its depiction as a trickster in Native American folklore. The rabbit has been a source of fascination and inspiration for humans throughout history. As a symbol, the rabbit reminds us of the importance of adaptability, quick thinking, and cleverness. It also represents innocence, vulnerability, and the power of transformation. Whether in literature, art,
or mythology, the rabbit continues to captivate our imagination, inspiring us to explore the depths of our own creativity and imagination. As we delve into the world of rabbit symbolism, we are reminded of the interconnectedness of all living things and the cyclical nature of life. The three-rabbit symbol, for instance, represents the unity and interconnectedness of all things, while the moon rabbit in Chinese mythology symbolizes the power of transformation and renewal. In many cultures, the rabbit is also associated with good luck, prosperity, and abundance. In Chinese culture, for example, the rabbit is considered a symbol of good fortune, while in ancient Egypt, rabbits were believed to bring fertility and abundance to the land. As we explore the world of rabbit mythology, we are struck by the diversity and richness of the symbolism associated with this beloved creature. Whether in the form of Bugs Bunny, the wise-cracking cartoon character, or the majestic moon rabbit of Chinese mythology, the rabbit continues to inspire and delight us, reminding us the power of imagination and the importance of living in harmony with nature. Significance of the white rabbit. The white rabbit is a symbol with profound psychological significance, representing various aspects of the human psyche. In the context of psychology, the white rabbit can also be seen as a manifestation of the collective unconscious. As proposed by Carl Jung, the white rabbit can be found in modern themes of feminist art, as seen in the work below by Monica Brinkman.
Spirit guides are known to guide us and send us messages. So when we see the white rabbit, they are sending us a message and guiding us with what we see. They're guiding us down the rabbit hole. Here we see more associations. It says, as a reference to Alice following the white rabbit in Lewis Carroll's 1895 novel Alice in Wonderland, in the 1990 film The Matrix, Neo is told to follow the white rabbit. What exactly could this mean spiritually? And is it the key to escaping the matrix the world is trapped by? A number of people report encountering white rabbits in unusual places or seeing them often, sometimes too often to merely be a coincidence. These experiences range from people seeing living white rabbits to seeing images of them. Following or paying attention to these white rabbits or what they lead to will usually lead people to discover some hidden truth or find something of value during these experiences. I, for one, do not think these experiences are just random occurrences. Rather, I would propose they are supernatural phenomena people experience. We know how our spirit guides use numbers such as 1111, 222, and others to send us messages and guide us along our way. This also happens with many things other than numbers, so I think the same is true with the white rabbits from these experiences. Ancient cultures held a belief in white rabbit spirit entities who were viewed as divine messengers and spiritual guides. Some also associated the white rabbit with truth. This means we can conclude seeing white rabbits often means they are a message from our spirit guides meant to lead us to the truth and freedom from the matrix. Since spirit guides are known to be those who guide us, and also can be angels, who are historically and still are identified as those who bring people messages, sometimes using imagery and by making animals appear to us. Of course, I do not believe every time someone sees a white rabbit or image of one it is a message/sign from spirit guides, but when it constantly happens randomly without clear explanation, I say it means seeing such white rabbit or an image of one is a spiritual message/sign.
There is this old depiction called the Mountain of the Adepts, which shows this mountain with these steps, which are said to be steps leading one along the path to spiritual enlightenment and finding the legendary Philosopher's Stone, which many people know from the story of Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, which is originally based on a myth about the Philosopher's Stone, which I believe is something real. But if you look at this depiction, if you zoom into it, you can see these white rabbits, and one of them is entering this hole beneath the stairs leading to spiritual enlightenment, causing me to think this represents the rabbit hole, people going down the rabbit hole, and at the end of the rabbit hole, they spiritually awaken. There is also an urban legend called the Bunny Man, which is about this humanoid rabbit beings
who people claim to see. The most famous one is probably that of Fairfax County in Virginia, USA, which is said to dwell beneath this bridge at nighttime. Though there have been other sightings, such as in Washington, D.C. and Maryland, as well as lesser-known sightings elsewhere. It is a humanoid rabbit, like in the story of Alice in Wonderland. However, some people describe this being as being harmful to humans. I personally think that multiple beings like this exist, but people might generalize them as all being bad. While some of them, I think, are bad, I think there are also good ones. You know, the whole thing about there being good and bad humans also applies to supernatural entities that are made to be neutral beings, which can be either good or bad. In Turkey, there is a large underground ancient city, sometimes known as the Dorinkuyu, if I pronounced that correctly, underground city. Some believe it contains an entrance to an underground realm leading into the Hollow Earth, or at least did once in the past, before being covered up. Looking at some depictions of this underground city, we can actually find a resemblance with the burrows of rabbits, which they enter through rabbit holes, making me think the city was built by humanoid rabbit beings. See here, it says Wonderland, the surreal and whimsical saying of Alice's Adventures in Wonderland by Lewis Carroll, is a world where conventional geography and logic are turned upside down, showing that logic can be defied, unlike what science teaches. In Alice in Wonderland, there are scenes where she changes sizes and objects also change size or appear to be different sizes. There is a neurological disorder called Alice in Wonderland syndrome. We can see it says here, the cause of Alice in Wonderland syndrome is currently not known. It says people with this syndrome may experience distortions in their visual perception of objects, such as appearing smaller or larger, or appearing to be closer or further than they are, similar to how Alice was like changing sizes or seeing objects in different sizes. But another symptom people have when they have this syndrome is this time distortions, where it says they may also lose a sense of time. The story of Alice in Wonderland also mentions distortion in time, such as with the Mad Hatter. Says this infamous scene features the Mad Hatter, the March Hare, and the Dormouse, who are perpetually stuck in tea time. They claim it's always 6 o'clock and they never move on from that time. This perpetual state of tea time is a form of time stagnation, highlighting the absurdity of the situation. It says Alice's growth and shrinking. It says Alice's size changes throughout the story, sometimes making her incredibly small or toweringly large. These physical transformations are accompanied by shifts in her perception of time, as objects and events seem to speed up or slow down in relation to her size. For instance, when she's tiny, time might seem to crawl, and when she's large, it might seem to fly by. Here we see that it says when Alice falls down the rabbit hole, it says slow and extended fall. Alice's fall down the rabbit hole is depicted as being incredibly long, allowing her time to ponder her situation and the unusual objects she passes along the way. This extended descent itself creates a sense of stretched time, according to SparkNotes.com. It says, yes, the rabbit hole in Alice's Adventures in Wonderland introduces a distortion of time and a shift from logical order reality to a nonsensical dreamlike state. Since people say they don't know what causes this syndrome, it makes me think it is actually caused by something supernatural that allows some people to see into a non-physical or spiritual world where things are distorted. Thus, I think the story of Alice in Wonderland is based on her having a supernatural experience of seeing into this realm.